So welcome everyone to Incuba's webinar on maximizing WhatsApp's power in customer journey management. So my name is Lisa and I head up demand gen and marketing at Incuba, and I will be your MC for today. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. Please note that today's session is being recorded. As a courtesy to our speaker and fellow participants, please can I ask you all to stay on mute throughout the webinar. I have enabled this so that we can keep it interactive, and there will obviously be Q&A at the end. But we do encourage you to utilize the chat feature for any queries during the presentation. So today we are thrilled to explore practical insights with our speaker, Trent Rossini. So Trent is one of Incuba's co-founders and MD. Prior to starting Incuba 14 years ago, Trent was the COO for Discovery Health and then appointed as the COO of Pru Health. So he has a wealth of technical knowledge across various industries. So why are we here today? WhatsApp's significance in customer engagement is undeniable, and today we'll uncover its nuances and best practices. During the session, we're going to address common pitfalls and challenges encountered in WhatsApp journey management, discover strategies for integrating WhatsApp with other channels, unveil methodologies for tracking and analyzing interactions for actionable insights, and how to shape seamless customer journeys to drive incredible results. So following Trent's talk, we're going to open the floor for a dynamic Q&A session, and then you can please unmute yourselves. So get your questions ready and let's give a warm welcome to Trent and let's get started.
Thanks, Lise. Appreciate the intro. Just to reiterate, I think the best way to do it, because I don't want to keep it completely a monologue from my side, is if you are looking to have any questions answered, you just type them into the chat, and at least feel free to interrupt me at any point during the presentation. I'm very happy to obviously answer questions as we go along. Great. Let me jump in. Got quite a lot to cover today. So in my preparation for today's session, it almost kind of made me realize how many different dimensions there are to WhatsApp, and how much we've learned over the last 2 or 3 years in this particular space. I do see as well some of our clients are on the session. I'm going to mention some in advance. I see some of our very valued clients from Alex Forbes and from Discovery. So thank you for joining. Obviously for them that have worked with us, a lot of this would be probably a reiteration of some of the things that they know. Great, let's jump in. So what are we going to be talking about today? The first thing really is how ultimately we can make sure that we use WhatsApp to achieve customer goals. It's a lot less about customer WhatsApp and a lot more about customer goals. And it's all about ultimately driving better business results. We're going to be looking at 2 broad modes of interaction. One is inbound, and the other is outbound. And those have to be approached in slightly different ways. We're going to talk quite a lot about WhatsApp templates, and I'll get through a bit of a how-to guide, give you a sense of some of the things you need to consider in terms of being effective, and then how we use that in combination with orchestrating automated dialogues across customer journeys. And then not just focusing on the WhatsApp channel, actually looking to extend into other channels and how we integrate with things like mobile apps, with websites, with call centers. And then very importantly, you have to do more than simply interact. What is important is to be able to track and report insights. And then we'll finish off just with a summary of pitfalls and challenges. Probably at that stage, we'll open up the discussion to the broader audience, and welcome the participation. And also for those people online that are either our clients or not, or had some experience, it'd be great to share as well. All right. So let's first talk a little bit about goal achievement. So this is actually way more important than the channel. Ultimately, what we want to be able to do is we want to support your businesses, and most of you, if not all of you, are from a commercial business, and you're trying to drive some level of profitability. Now, we know from a value point of view that the only way you get that right is if you allow your customers to reach their goals. So for argument's sake, if somebody is looking to buy a car, that would be the goal. If they're, for instance, looking to fund their children's education, they might be, look for extended credit in a credit card. So different customers have different goals at different points in the customer journey. Now, the next point might seem obvious, but actually turns out that the secret sauce lies in exactly this point, is that customers don't start off at their goals. They actually start off at a different point. And by definition, if for argument's sake, they want to take out a credit card, they don't have a credit card today. So they're going to have to go along a customer journey, and they're going to have to interact. And we're going to have to support them over a period of the journey to get them to that particular goal point. Now, this is where the digital communication, and obviously as we're talking today about WhatsApp, really starts to play, which is, ultimately customers act on nudges. And we've seen how effective this is. I'll share some of that insight with you. But what's really, really important is that customers have to receive value, or at least perceive that they're receiving value. So for argument's sake, if I want to book a trip, I want to make sure that the trip appeals to me. It's got all of the critical aspects that make sense to me. I'm going to feel comfortable. The price point is going to be correct. And that leads us to today's discussion in the intersection of managing customer journeys and using specifically the WhatsApp channel along the customer journey. So let's take an example. We've got over here an illustrative short-term onboarding customer journey. So this is for people buying short-term insurance. And they might start off, for argument's sake, by observing ads on Google or on social media sites. They might click through to a website. They might call the call center. They might receive the quote, review the quote. Maybe they don't answer. Maybe they drop off. They then might have a query that they want to resolve, and hopefully they accept the quote, in which case, if you are responsible for this journey, you've achieved your goal, and the customer certainly achieved theirs, and ultimately maybe you install the app. Now, when I spoke of value, it's really about evaluating from a customer point of view whether you perceive value. So you might have some people, for instance, requesting the quote and some people dropping off. And the question is, why is that happening? We actually support understanding value through a value driver model. It's centered around various themes. The four themes that we use most often, but not exclusively, are economic, functional, experiential, and symbolic. So basically, economic, is the price point right? Functional, is it functionally rich? Experiential, was it an easy experience? Was it easy to deal with the organization? And symbolic, does the brand represent something I want to engage with? And what we do is we monitor customers along this customer journey. We assess their progress, and ultimately we determine whether they reach the goal. In this particular case, whether someone, for argument's sake, accepts the quote or declines the quote. So we're going to be talking today about customer journeys, about orchestrating customer journeys, and also about making sure that customers perceive value along the customer journey. So we've spoken about the high-level approach. Where messaging fits in, and I guess going to be the focus of today's discussion, is really in the domain of customers acting on nudges and ultimately customers receiving value. Now, for most of you today, you would have used some of the following channels. You would have, for argument's sake, used website interactions. You might have sent your customers emails. You certainly in the past probably did some SMS, and maybe some of you even had interactions through USSD. But what we're going to be focusing on today is WhatsApp. And there's a reason for that. Let's just look at each one of these channels and do a quick assessment in terms of how they fit in. And we're going to rate them against different dimensions. So reach is basically how many people you can get hold of. Attention grabbing, basically when they're using their device, typically a mobile device, do you get their attention? Can the channel be trusted? Are they multimedia? Is it rich? Is it compelling? Is it engaging? Can it be personalized? Is it potentially interactive? Is it easy to retrieve that message once the first version's been sent to you? And ultimately, we'll look at click-through rates. So let's start off with email. So, and this depends very much on your market, but typically what we've seen is that not everyone has or reports an email address. The problem with an email inbox is it's exactly that, it's email inbox. So you might only, for instance, interact with that periodically. There's a big problem with trust. There are some moves afoot to try and fix that, but I think it's fair to say that spam is still a major issue. There is some level of multimedia, but it's not directly executed in the actual inbox itself. You can personalize to a large degree. It's somewhat interactive, although it's difficult to interact directly in the email itself. You typically have to break out and go to websites. Not really easy to retrieve if your inbox looks anything like mine does. You have thousands of mails to try and file them, but it's quite difficult to find them. And then we know the click-through rates are really poor, about 3 to 5%. Now, SMS, in many respects, is a contrast to email. The reach is probably a little bit higher, although these days, a lot of spam happening, relatively attention grabbing. It's not really trusted because you don't know the source of sending. Not very well. It's not multimedia at all. Is a little bit with MMS, but it's progressing, but still relatively weak. Reasonably interactive. Yes, you can sort of personalize, and yes, you can find your chats. Now, when we start contrasting with WhatsApp, the reach is amazing. Again, it's market dependent. For many of you that operate in the SA markets, for instance, in Europe, certainly in South America, the reach is phenomenal. Countries like Kenya have in excess of 90% reach as far as WhatsApp is concerned. Massively attention grabbing, because for those markets, typically this is your primary communication source. Very much trusted, and I'll talk about trust today. Very much multimedia and interactive multimedia directly in the channel. We can personalize to a high degree. Very interactive, easy to retrieve, and truly amazing click-through rates. And then the last one I do want to add into the mix, which is somewhat of a different perspective, but worth considering, is apps. This is company apps that are specific to your brand. So reach is, and I'll go through why I feel that this is the case. The reach is terrible. They're reasonably attention grabbing. They're very much trusted because you know who you're interacting with. Yes, they're multimedia, they're personalized, they're interactive. Not always that easy to retrieve information. Now, let me just zoom in specifically on the reach of apps. And somehow I think a lot of people say, oh, I'm an organization, we've got a great brand, we need an app. I want to share with you why their strategy is such a difficult one. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you are a bank, if you're FNB or Standard Bank or ABSA, your reach and your ability to interact with people is extremely high. But if you're an insurance company, I think in many respects, if you're a travel company or if you're in many other industries, people will simply not install your app. And this is typically what we see. So this is an analysis of different markets, specifically for Africa. And what it looks at is what is the retention rates, average and best, for a period of 1 day to 30 days. So look at these numbers over here, 2.7% and 7.1%. You're going to spend a lot of money building an app, and a lot of people are going to uninstall your app. Western Europe, we see very similar patterns. If we look at the USA, we see very similar patterns. So it's hard to get people to actually install your app and actually stay on board. Here's an alternative study. So this actually looks at different industries. So if you're in the news industry, you've probably got a better chance of having your app retained. Business, shopping, finance, 4.6%. That it really is terrible. And then if you're into entertainment, travel, you're in the 3% mark. So very, very difficult. Obviously, social, this is a general view. Today's discussion and looking at the primary social media apps, obviously, in our case, WhatsApp, and then things like Facebook, Instagram, X, those are different, but those are very well-established platforms. All right, so I've spoken about customer journeys. I've spoken about the channel. I'm going to jump in and take you through a case study because I think this is the quickest way to actually show you some of what we've been able to achieve. And then after I run through 2 case studies, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to talk a little bit about some of the mechanisms and some of the things to consider. So for many of you, you would recognize the next case study. It's a a company, a very well-known company in South Africa, is in fact Discovery Vitality. They have a world-class change behavioral program, a wellness program, and the program works on the basis that you engage on the program, and basically you participate in activities. You either go to the gym or you link up your Fitbit or your Garmin watch, and then you get rewards. Those rewards play out in different ways. They've got something called Vitality Active Rewards. I have to confess that I'm completely and utterly hooked. So I chase my rewards on a weekly basis, basically getting points for exercise and getting a complete thrill out of that. And then you earn miles and you get rewards over a period of time. So we focused on a whole lot of benefits, but the one I'm going to run you through in terms of this case study is specifically something called active rewards. So active rewards that some of you might be familiar with is the idea of connecting your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or your Garmin to Discovery and getting points. Now, we get notification that someone has started a policy, and then ultimately what the expectation is that people will log onto the app, they'll activate their active rewards, and they'll be an engaged member. And this is what I've illustrated on the screen now is our primary path. Of course, if that's what people did, well, I guess we wouldn't have a business and we wouldn't be gainfully employed. And it turns out that very few people actually do that. The majority of people actually follow this path at the bottom over here. And this path is the path of nudges. And really important concept I'm going to mention on a couple of occasions is this notion of an idol. So an idol is kind of a strange concept, but it's really the idea that what you do is you create data out of inaction. So when customers don't perform the action, specifically the action of logging into the website or logging into the app, and then we message them, and then we monitor again, and we create another idol, and then potentially we can chat to them through a Discovery agent, and we can nudge further along the customer journey, and ultimately we can actually make a call out to the customer. So if we start to go through this in a little bit more detail, so that's the overview of the customer journey. Let's start off and start to show you some of the communications that we send out at different points in the journey. So the first is obviously the activation comm. You can see over here, quite multimedia, nicely branded. I will emphasize that good branding and good multimedia is super important to success rates. So you can see over here, it says, "Hi, Trent, you want some smoothies? I love my smoothies." And you can click through, "I need more information." It actually takes you through a deep link into the actual app so that you can set up your goal. All right. Now, as I said, very few people, probably less than a quarter of the people we engage with, will actually interact through that first message. But we don't give up then. What we do is we create an idol. We identify the specific individuals, and this is done at an individual level, and we actually send them a reminder. "Hey, Trent, you're missing out. Do you not want to get some rewards? Tell me more." And we can here open up the app, and we can actually keep track of links through to the app. Hopefully, one of those actions leads them to the endpoint in the active rewards activated journey, and we send them a how-to guide, and they can click through and show their goal. Along the customer journey, it might be that somebody would like to chat to a person, so we provide that option. And a little detail here, you actually see that this is done through a slightly different number. I'll talk a little bit about inbound and outbound numbers, which is quite an important concept. And then at the end of the customer journey, we start collecting feedback, and we start to understand how people are experiencing this particular customer journey. And quite importantly here, you'll see that we just type some example comments as to people that are not having a great experience, and we apply our text analytics to better understand that. So all of those interactions are then illustrated, and what I'm showing you here is from the Incubate Journey Management platform. It shows you a real-time view of interactions across the customer journey. You'll see some of the concepts that I've spoken about through mapping from the conceptual design into something that represents itself in technology. So a policy start. You'll see the idles over here. We can monitor the app login, the web login, and you can actually see the figure of 8 that happens between those two. We got our HSM, highly structured messages, and then we ultimately got our engaged member. And we get this data on an ongoing basis to be able to get a very clear view, and then we can dynamically apply rules to progress people along the way. Unfortunately, I can't share all of the details of the success of the program. Discovery guards their secrets very carefully. So I'm just going to show you some of the insights specifically related to the WhatsApp channel. In this particular program, we're getting a 90% reach rate. We know that because we know people that are not on the WhatsApp network. We keep track of that. Engagement effectiveness is 60%, and our message rate is 72%. So really, really good. The other point I want to share with you, and this talks a little bit about the level of personalization. So every customer has a path from the start to the goal, and we then group paths that are similar in nature, and that allows us to compile a Pareto analysis. So you can see on the first path we had over 1,000 people, and then progressively we have fewer and fewer people. And it turns out that for a particular period of analysis, for the month approximately, we had 7,704 people, 74 people reaching the goals, and we had 3,842 unique paths. And it shows you the level of uniqueness that is actually achieved along the customer journey. Right, the second case study I want to run you through, and I'm going to go through a little bit more quickly, is an employee benefits company where we did some work. This is more kind of a chat commerce nature, and this is to do with people that are actually leaving the fund. We receive notification from the workflow of the administrator. We send out then messages. Actually, it turns out that this was done across SMS and WhatsApp. And then we start to collect information, sending unique documents to customers along the way. So you'll see some elements of the initial messages going out. You'll see the ability to collect data and do chat commerce. It's all fully automated, collecting email addresses. And then we use that information to do an authentication, and we actually send out what we call a paid up certificate. So that really is a statement of benefits from the employee benefits company. And then you can determine what you want to do, whether you want to leave it in the fund, give some advice as to why you should, because it's good for investment. We cover some of the technicalities of something called 37D, which basically means that you have other payment requirements. And ultimately, we collect things like your tax details, and ultimately we pay out the amount. So a slightly different application of WhatsApp at play. And again, we keep track of that on the customer journey. So those are the two case studies. What I want to do now is I'm going to move on to some of the concepts that make all of this possible. And we're going to start off with this idea of a WhatsApp template message. Now, obviously, we're talking about WhatsApp for business. All right, so it's a little bit different to what you'd be doing as an individual. And it's enabled through a process of setting up a number. That number can be branded, and we can run different kind of interactions. So I'm just going to show you another example of an outbound campaign selling a particular product over here. We can interact and provide information. We can redirect people into the app, and ultimately we can send them some rewards. And this is what we call an outbound scenario. So it's a set of messages that are sent from your company out to people in the market. The contrast to that is inbound, and this is actually sharing a little bit of a case study of some great work that we've done with Alexander Forbes. You can see, for argument's sake, I can type the word help over here. It pops up a menu. It can be then redirected across the channels. There's a series of options that you can select, for instance, selecting a statement, and ultimately we can redirect people to a login. This is inbound because it's initiated on this number by the consumer. The former example was outbound and sent out to consumers based on having their contact information. Now, all of this is enabled through template messages. And before you can actually send a template message, you need to submit it for approval to Meta. There is quite a process. There are quite a number of rules. It's related to your business. There's certain content. There's certain levels of merging that you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And we get a whole lot of different devices. So some of those, for instance, are a multimedia message with some text. These three buttons over here, we refer to those as a quick reply. So that means that you don't have to type. For instance, you can see the three options. Let's chat now. We can collect information. These are text-based interactions. Again, we're making use of quick replies. In this case, 2 buttons. We can send out merged documents, personalized documents, things like PDFs and highly personalized graphics and videos. And then ultimately, this last type of WhatsApp template message is what we call a call to action. So that's the ability to interact, to take someone to a website or to call them. And just to be clear, the calling is through a telephone line. It's not through WhatsApp. WhatsApp Business doesn't support calling as it does on a person-to-person basis. So in this example over here, we have in fact one, well, the first example on the left is that's a multimedia item with a quick reply. So that's one template. This multimedia item is another template, and then we've got a call to action. So all of those are slightly different templates that need to be approved. All right. Another device that we've got is something called a list picker. So while a quick reply only supports 3 responses, a list picker supports up to 10. You get a list, you can basically put any details you want. In this case, we're using it, for instance, to rate the service. And then obviously bearing in mind that we can make use of QR codes. These work very well for physical environments. So for argument's sake, if you're running a competition and you want to advertise this on a pamphlet or on a showroom floor, we can have people interact and we can actually trigger off an engagement. We can start chatting to people. Now, one of the things that people are not potentially aware of, but something that we use extensively, in fact, something I mentioned in the Discovery Vitality example, is this idea of a channel switch. All right. So you'll see very specifically that this particular communication is entitled Incuba Comms. All right. Now, that obviously might be, for argument's sake, Standard Bank Communications or Old Mutual, whatever brand that you are. But let's say this is your outbound communication channel, but you want to be able to cater for people that are contacting your organization, because obviously you don't want them to have a poor service experience. So what we're able to do is we're able to do a redirect, and we can actually take them to another number. And just for the sake of this discussion, I've labeled this Incuba service. And we actually do this for quite a number of our clients. We have an outbound number and an inbound number, and they are treated and deal with slightly different scenarios. Now, you might be asking, why don't we just make it one channel? And the reason is that particularly if you're doing outbound campaigns, you don't want to be interrupting and engaging people when they're trying to interact with you. And it leads to a fragmented and poor experience. And that's why we recommend that you actually separate your outbound from your inbound. All right. Now, there are different kinds of WhatsApp messages. Broadly speaking, they are divided into 2 categories. There's the user initiated, or that's what they were referred to, now referred to as servicing messages. The example of that is the QR code that I shared with you. And then there's business initiated or campaign orientated. And there's a subset of that, marketing templates and utility templates. Now, utility templates are about 70% of the cost of marketing templates. And just to give you an example, to be honest, the vast majority of the work that we do with clients is marketing templates. Utility templates are, for instance, your order is on its way, your password has changed, your profile has been updated, your appointment is on Tuesday. Marketing messages are things like offers, updates, our stores move, some good news, etc. So as I said, for the vast majority of clients that we interact with, we use marketing messages. A question that I often get asked is, do you need an opt-in to be able to send a WhatsApp message? And the answer is no, not as far as the WhatsApp channel is concerned. There's a big but. But certainly under things like Data Protection Act, under POPI, it is vital that you absolutely respect engagement with customers, and it's vital that you provide a comprehensive unsubscribe capability. So it's all well and good. We can send an initial message, but we fully respect people's privacy. And obviously, if they don't want to interact, we have to give them the option to opt out. I'm going to talk more about that because, as it turns out, people can actually block you on WhatsApp, and that then damages your reputation. In fact, can result in your number being disabled. I'm not really talking too much about the specifics of Incubate today, but I will mention that the one aspect, all of this capability is enabled directly in our platform. So everything's through a user interface. It's highly configurable, and it doesn't require that there's any code written. So everything I'm going to show you today is achievable through configuration of the Incubate platform, and that allows us to then iterate quite rapidly. All right. So moving on, how to WhatsApp. Well, I'm sure you all know how to WhatsApp, and I'm sure you WhatsApp your friends, but how do we do that from a business point of view? The first thing you need to do is you need to obtain a number. To be honest, the WhatsApp number is just notional in its nature. We can help you source that number. It doesn't really mean anything, but you need to tie it to basically a WhatsApp profile. Then you need to go through a business verification. This is super important, and this actually gives you access to the Green Shield. So the Green Shield's something maybe I didn't emphasize enough early on. But let me just go through that over here. Apologies. So you'll see that if you go into a WhatsApp business number, that it'll have the little green shield with the tick, and that means that it's a verified number. It basically means that the number can be trusted, and that's absolute prerequisite to be able to get up and running with the WhatsApp channel. Then you go through the process of designing and approving your templates. You need to submit them to Meta. Most of that is automated. It seems largely through an AI. The AI sometimes gets it wrong. We've got an appeal process we work through. There's a bit of a magic to all of this. We don't fully understand how it works. We've got some guidelines. Meta don't tell you everything you need to know to be able to do this, but I think we've developed a good level of expertise. And then something that you might not be aware of is you need to warm up the number. All right. So WhatsApp numbers have a reputation associated with them. They go through tiers: 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and unlimited. You have to send more than 50% of your tier within a 7-day period with a good quality rating. So in other words, if you want to go from the 1,000 to the 10,000, means you have to send more than 500 a day for more than 7 days with a good quality rating. So something to bear in mind if you're going to be running very big campaigns. And then what you need to do is you need to manage the quality. And it's really important that you manage the opt-outs. So I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this. If you've had a squabble with a significant other or another person, you might know of the concept of blocking somebody. Not a nice social thing to do, but something that certainly people do to businesses. They block the number. If you block the number, and if enough people block your number as a business, ultimately what will happen is that the template associated with that number gets disabled. You get 3 options to disable a template, and then it is completely disabled for good. Now, we can reapprove it, but if that happens too often, ultimately they disable the number. And it's really not good, because what happens is your campaigns basically break while all of that is happening. So something to really manage. And then ultimately it's about managing the costs. An important aspect of the charging model of WhatsApp is basically you get large, simplistically put, you get a 24-hour window. So once you send an initial message, there's a small incremental cost for each message thereafter, but you get a 24-hour window. So you need to think a little bit about that, and you got to think about how many templates make it up. So you're not paying for each and every message at full price, but you are paying for the actual end-to-end dialogue, and a dialogue is multiple messages, as I showed you earlier. Now, once we've got up and running, we need to make sure that these engagements are effective. And there's a couple of things that you need to think about in terms of sending out WhatsApp. The first is that you need to know where your customers are at. What is their emotional state? Are they happy? Do they like your brand? Are they upset? And you want to be able to collect that information. You want to be very specific about the audience. We've spoken about the high degrees of personalization. So who is this person? What products do they have? How do I personalize the particular piece of content that I'm sending out? What is the content itself, and how we're going to deal with that? And then super, super important, which I don't think is adequately covered in traditional campaigning solutions, is that you need to know the timing. And timing is such an important aspect of sending out messages. And if you get these 4 elements right, ultimately you'll have an effective campaign. So how do we do that? Well, we keep track of customer context. We keep track of their personal data, things like their demographics. We keep track of the engagement activities. We keep track of their value perception based on the feedback that I showed you earlier. And then we apply rules against the single view to be able to push out to people. And then we have a view of each interaction across the customer journey. We can see all of the interactions, we can drill into those, and then we can apply rules to be able to nudge people forward. So I spoke a little bit earlier about what happens when you get in action. And as I said, we have this concept of an idle. So let's say we've got a start journey over here. We've got, simplistically 2 neutral points, and ultimately we have a goal. What can happen is I might not progress to the first neutral point or the second one. And then what we do in the platform, and this is based on time, we can set a timer. Say, okay, if they don't progress to the next neutral point or the goal, or the second neutral point on the goal, you can set your rules as you see fit. I'm going to create an idle, and then I'm going to send out a communication, in this case, a WhatsApp chat. That's great, and I nudge the person forward. And then they don't interact, they don't come back to your website, or they're on the website, but they don't take up the offer. So we pop up something on the website. And then we have another stall because they've interacted with the website, they've chatted online, but you really want to call an agent, and we create another idle, and then we create a call to the call center, ultimately with the objective of taking somebody to the goal. So we provide within our platform a mechanism to basically specify the period of the idle. And again, these are quite foreign concepts, but basically we have something called a blocking transaction. The idea being, what are the things that are going to stop the idle from being created? Remember, this is creating data in the absence of action. So we want to create it unless something happens, and this is basically the unless rule. Now, I made a claim earlier on that people don't interact with the first message. Here's an example. This is from one of our clients, a slightly different one to the one I shared earlier. And you can see how we're able to quite easily lift our engagement rates from 18 to 22%. So getting, 18 plus an additional 22, which is a total of 40% interaction by using nudges. Some of the technicalities of our platform is rules-driven merging. So you'll see over here, this is a little bit of our configuration with an overlay. We obviously can personalize based on things like first name. We can have different welcome messages with different graphics. Those are what we call component rules. We then can review that, and we can do this across SMS, email, and obviously WhatsApp. And that's all, again, done based on data without any coding effort. The next very powerful tool that we use extensively is that of incentives. Now, as it turns out, the case study I shared with you earlier is a wellness program predicated on incentives. So we use that same concept, but we use it to basically interact with people. And I want to share a real case study that we did for a banking client and just show you the power of incentives. So in this particular case, we were simply trying to get responses from individuals. And we sent out communications, and there were 2 forms of communication. The one form of communication was from Incuba, and Although we're very grateful for all the people on the call today, we fully realize that we're not a consumer brand. And then we had the brand of the bank as well. So just to show you the relative performance, Incuba branded on the right here, no incentive, baseline of 1. Incuba branded with a coffee voucher, baseline basically of 2, we doubled it. Incuba branded with a lucky draw, it was about 1.8. Company branded, obviously much better than Incuba, to be expected. That was about 7 times the baseline. But here's the thing. Incuba branded, unknown brand, plus a coffee voucher, plus lucky draw, we got 10 times the response. So, and this has been validated through some academic research that we observed. These are our real numbers based on a real client interaction. So this is a little bit of the creative that we used, and we're doing this across the board. We give away coffee vouchers. We work with Yo-Yo, previously known as Y-Code. Sometimes we do airtime, and we find this highly effective. It wouldn't be fitting to have a conversation in the space without mentioning generative AI. And that is something, obviously, we'll be able to do. I'm not going to run through the detail of this, just in the interest of time, but to mention to you that we can take a chat. We can take the context of the customer, which, as I said, we collect. We can take that and we can then search within a content repository. We can retrieve documents that are relevant for that particular individual. We actually use Azure OpenAI to be able to extract the content, and then using the profile of the individual, construct a communication, and ultimately send that out back to the chat channel or through to the agents. And for anybody that is interested, I'm happy after the session to actually give you a working demo of this particular solution. So let's spend the last 5 minutes quickly talking about integrating into other channels. Let's take an example of somebody that is looking to find a solution. Specifically, he is looking to get a quote. So maybe you run some ads in Facebook, they log in, they redirect it to the website, you do some remarketing. We're then able to interact with that person, obviously having collected their details, obviously because they shared them through the interaction on the websites, and do a WhatsApp chat, and ultimately redirect them to the call center. And this is a true representation of a customer journey, of what WhatsApp obviously only forms a very small part. Now, we're able to do that basically by ingesting data into the Incuba platform, and then keeping track of all of these interactions, as well as overlaying idles that I've spoken about today. We've developed a whole host of integration capabilities, and those include keeping track of interactions with apps and websites. We can do it through flat files as well. Probably one of the most useful integrations that we've done is with Google Tag Manager. So we have a native API integration into Google Tag Manager, and this means that we can actually track people on your website, as well as create tracking URLs. So for those of you that are familiar with UTM codes are used in digital ads to keep track of the source of the ad. We're able to generate URLs that are highly personalized, and they actually come into the Incuba platform. Similarly, on an outbound basis, either for email or WhatsApp, we can track each individual and keep track of their click-throughs to your website, to an app. We actually did that in the Vitality case study that we showed you earlier. And each of those URLs is completely personalized, but it's anonymized. So you won't be able to, you as an individual, if you look at the URL, have a funny code in it, you won't know what the link is, but we keep track of that, and we can keep track of that interaction and feed it back into the platform. Okay, so very strong capabilities to be able to integrate across platforms. The last section I want to finish off with is just some of our reporting. So we are able to visualize customer journeys. We're able to show any interaction with a WhatsApp, with an email, with an SMS. We can keep track of who's sent, who's clicked, what feedback we've got, and then how that's resulted in a goal. And we can start to then examine the difference between people that actually reached the goal, or potentially those people that dropped off. So in this particular case, we're looking at a journey that is promoting a credit card, and we can see that those people that dropped off, or those people that ultimately spent money on it, and we can compare and contrast, and we've got very in-depth capabilities. We've got very rich engagement reports, so we know exactly how many journeys were started, how many engagements were generated, how many were sent, how many delivered, read, responded, and we report against that. And we allow you interactive tools to actually see the paths. This is actually how we did that analysis to determine exactly how many paths people went through. For those of you that are considering the broader context, we're also able to look at different customer journeys and look at the journey in its entirety. So here we've got an example of a onboarding journey, and we're running an analysis between two different groups of people. A group of promoters that people with a CX background will be familiar with, and detractors, in other words, people that are supporting the brand, and we're comparing and contrast those people that are detracting from the brand. And then we can start to see how long did they spend on the customer journey, what was their overall level of satisfaction. We get that from the feedback through the relative channel, such as WhatsApp. We can analyze the unstructured text using our text analytics, and we can keep track of the engagement percentage. So this gives you a very rich capability to understand your customer journeys. So ending off the formal part of the interactions today. Hopefully what I've shared with you is be very clear on the goal. Make sure that your actions are aligned to the goal. Focus on the ROI. We have many people saying to us, WhatsApp is very expensive. It is expensive, but your returns are far higher. There are lots of moving parts. Obviously, automated dialogues, as I've shared with you today, are not as straightforward as blast communications, but they are infinitely more effective. It's important that your measurement is across the journey and not based on individual engagements. So you need a solution that can tie together your various interactions. And then the quality of your engagements is really, really effective. Okay. You want to make sure that you're not getting blocked as a number. I think it's simply bad practice for a corporate to be sending out poor communication, but certainly you want your solution to be supporting that as well. And then it's a process, and this is something we do a lot with our clients, of execute, measure, and refine. I think there's a lot to be learned around the WhatsApp space. What we are seeing, and sometimes we have discussions with clients, they say to us, but we got a WhatsApp chatbot, we kind of sorted. That might be true, but I think you're missing in many opportunities to really take advantage of this particular channel. So just in closing then, hopefully what I shared with you today is some of the work that we've done to reduce dependency on development. We give you speed to insight, and we are very specific about identifying where intervention should happen. We allow for rapid iteration, and ultimately we deliver tangible ROI. And we really are excited about the projects that we're busy with our clients. So thank you very much. I'll finish off there and open the floor to Lisa and any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Trent. That was absolutely great and very insightful. And I hope that everybody enjoyed that. Now, I think what we can do, we've got some time for Q&A. So if anybody would like to ask any questions, please, the floor is yours. Carl.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Cool. Yes, I'm from the Fashini Group, and the question is actually one more around permissions. So I just was thinking there's maybe a sneaky question that you could maybe help give us some guidance on. Just a very quick bit of background. We send out currently to about 140,000 subscribers a link to a digital magazine that these subscribers actually said yes to. That you subscribe to a magazine created by us and our publishers, and it's a digital link that they send every month, which currently is being sent to them via SMS. Okay, because that's actually how we pitched it in the original sales discussions with these customers. It was pitched as an SMS send to them. We prefer to send the link to their subscription via WhatsApp. Because obviously nowadays WhatsApp is a far more intuitive channel. It's one we all use daily, whereas SMS has become, let's be honest, more of a junk mail kind of channel, as far as people seeing it in their inboxes. So my question is, are you aware of any reason why we could not just send it automatically via WhatsApp because we have these people's phone numbers, or should we be requesting permission to do so? Bear in mind, it's not a marketing campaign. It's actually the delivery of something that they already subscribed to. But as I said in the beginning, they obviously said yes to SMS for that subscription, not to WhatsApp for the delivery. Any light to shed on that as far as permissions or legalities or WhatsApp's own perhaps restrictions around that?
There are absolutely no restrictions. You are completely and utterly entirely entitled to do that. There's no question whatsoever, given that they're clients of yours, that you can send out the message. I'm 100% certain on that. The only requirement, and one that I mentioned earlier, you have to offer an unsubscribe, but we do that natively as part of our communications. But absolutely, that's permissible. No issue at all. Yeah.
Good news. Thank you very much for the answer. Appreciate that very much.
Any other questions? Wilma, hi. Want to go ahead?
I'm just unmuting her, one seckie. Sorry, Wilma, it's hanging my side. Give me a sec.
Lise, she did put her question in the Q&A channel as well.
Let's have a look here.
Yeah, I am unmuting her. Hold on.
Well, I can't see the question. Can you maybe read it off, Shelley?
Yeah, for outbound messages, are you just sending the comms and then wait for the user to either interact or opt out? Or do you get prior approval through other means of communication?
Just to reiterate this point, there's no longer a requirement to get another channel's approval to send on WhatsApp. That was the case with WhatsApp in the early days. I can't tell you exactly when it changed, but certainly for the last 2 years, there's no longer a requirement. You can send, there's absolutely no restriction to send to anybody on WhatsApp if you've got their number. The only requirements, and this is a POPI requirement, it's not a WhatsApp requirement, key POPI requirements or data protection requirements is that you must provide an opt-out, but you can send at any point to any individual.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, we can.
Hey, hi there. So thank you, Shelley, for that and for that answer. Sorry, I bombarded Q&A with 3 questions. My second question was, how would an escalation process work for these WhatsApp responses? I assume that it has multiple uses. It could be for a sales initiative, for support, or in any of that. How does that currently get monitored, and how frequently does that happen?
So I'm assuming that you are making reference to redirecting an inbound request to a person, either for a sale or service scenario. Is that correct?
Actually more around outbound. If you send a WhatsApp to somebody and they respond, whatever the message might be, where does that go to?
Well, that very much depends on the design of your campaign, but typically, I say broadly, there are 2 scenarios. The one is you redirect them to a digital channel. So they go to a website and they complete a form, or they can actually complete all the information in the WhatsApp chat itself. Alternatively, we've actually got a case management capability and we can redirect it into a contact center. So, and we do both of those for quite a number of our clients.
Okay. So from a cost perspective, you mentioned that WhatsApp could be quite expensive, but if you follow the case management route, have you found that to be more successful than other means of handling customer issues?
It very much depends on the context. So, for some clients, they want fully automated, no people interactions. The interaction with a person is going to be infinitely more expensive than the cost of a WhatsApp. So, but sometimes it's completely justified. I mean, if you're selling an expensive insurance product or expensive banking product, you want to do that.
Sure.
In other scenarios of servicing, you actually don't want to do that. And I showed briefly some of the self-service options that we are doing with Alex Forbes. So they're redirecting into digital channels.
Okay, cool. And then my last question was, just based on the work that you've done up to now, which industry have you found to be the most successful with using WhatsApp as a channel?
Look, I can't say I have an answer to that. What I can say is we've done extensive work in financial services and telcos, but I think that's more a function of the kind of clients that we have
Sure.
than anything else. But I don't think, my view is that it's not an industry specific dimension. I think if the message is compelling, the channel is compelling, you can get great results. So I don't believe that there's an industry dimension to success.
Thanks, Trent.
Any other questions?
I think I've hoarded the the Q&A long enough. Thank you.
You've done well. Okay, so if they... Sorry, Trent. We have one more.
Jean has some questions. Let me just see.
Hi, Jean here from TFG.
Hi, John.
I just have a quick question. Thanks for the very informative presentation. Trent, you mentioned earlier that you don't need to have marketing permissions to send a customer communication through WhatsApp, as long as you've got the opt-out solution at the end.
That's correct.
Must we capture that opt-out as a WhatsApp opting out of a WhatsApp channel?
You should. It's just good practice. I mean, there's not legally you have to capture opt-outs. The POPI Act isn't specific about channel, but from a good practice point of view, absolutely do it. So just to elaborate a little bit on opt-outs. Opt-outs is actually a whole domain in itself. Now, as an organization, so let's take yourselves as TFG. You don't want to opt out somebody entirely. I mean, that would be bad for your business.
Yeah.
So typically what we want to do is we want to opt out either on a channel or a communication level. So, I think there's a question earlier about, for instance, digital mags. We would suggest that you do an opt-out that's specific to that communication on that channel. And that's more of a good practice element just in terms of managing your communication. But there's no legal requirement to keep that specific, but we would strongly recommend it.
Okay, yeah, because historically, the only opt-out channels that we've got currently available is SMS, your traditional marketing channels, SMS, iVoice, telemarketing, that sort of thing, email campaigns.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a fight that we need to fight on our side from a development perspective.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, in our platform, we can do that on your behalf, and we do that for many clients.
What do you mean there?
So we keep track of who's opted out on what communication. Anything that goes from our platform, we will keep track of on your behalf. And the next time the communication should go out to a person they've opted out, we don't send it because of the rule.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Excellent.
Great. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I had one more question. How long does it normally take for you to configure a WhatsApp campaign like this? I mean, you mentioned Meta needed to approve templates, and I'm sure that doesn't have the fastest turnaround time. That's an assumption.
No, we can get templates approved these days. I mean, we've got it down to, we can do it in 24 hours. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's fully automated through an API.
And then how would you go about communicating with you go and sit with a client and then discuss the campaign and do, the whole project and
so I mean, obviously as an organization, we have a professional services side, and we engage with clients. We help them design the campaign, and then we apply all of the technologies and techniques that I've spoken about today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, I think then I will wrap up. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us all today. Again, if you would like to reach out to Trent or myself, please feel free to do so. But all the material and the recording will be sent through to you shortly. But once again, thanks for your time, and big thanks to Trent, and have a great day further.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks. Bye.